It's a time for pick it from China. I'm a brave bot! Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we are going to do a chit chat about the SF3000. And the IPS 4.8 screen is going to be making this thing so much better than the previous one. However, it also comes with a different price tag and a lot of freaking stickers on it. But here you can see actually that this is called the SF3000. It's a dual core 1.2 GHz and having 2 gigs of RAM. However, so when it comes to the software, yeah, this needs to be the supreme version. We have been checking out the SF2000. What I loved about this thing, because it's really cheap and it looks like a Super NES controller. However, the software was pretty bad out of the box, where we had like an improvement of software, but this thing needs to be the next level when it comes to that. So there is another problem, and the first problem we're having is the price point. So maybe in super sales we're having maybe a cheap option, but when it comes to out of the box, as it's going to be released, this isn't quite expensive. And if you're looking at the price point, we're having so many different options that are maybe better. But let's do a quick overview of the toilet paper manual. Here I have like a 3000 milliamp battery that gives us 5 to 7 hours of game time. So still stating the dual core, no chipset whatsoever. Here having the overview of the manual and also how the menu and everything works. So let's do a quick peek in the inside of the box. So when it comes to the form factor, it's still a very compact, let's say, model. What I do love about it already is like the form factor. You can just see that they did some tweaking and they did put some effort in it. So why is there like greasy fingers on my screen? So when you're looking at the back, this is not like some flat device. So when it comes to comfortability, this is very comfortable. However, so you can already see when it comes to some configuration of it, it's kind of weird. So first of all, I don't love it that they're putting the ABXY buttons underneath, because if you're going to be playing D-pad, this would be the best position, or that's what I think about it. Overall, let's say the button press, it's quite interesting. The form factor of the buttons, it's quite nice, but you can just see that when you're pressing one button, the other one starts to wiggle. In other words, this is not a good thing. We have seen this with very cheap controllers. So, and it also has this overall like a weird feel with the D-pad normally. I am a little bit disappointed. I wish they went for like a full D-pad. Let's clean the freaking screen, by the way. There is no screen protector on it. So the joysticks have no click. Why just these cheap analog, joysticks, nothing fancy. Select and start in the middle, that's a good position. Volume control, audio jack out, USB for charging, and there is no OTG port, what it actually said. So I'm guessing there is no HDMI out. On and off switch over here. The SD card is implemented at the top with a no brand 64 gigabyte. Man, these things are getting corrupted within, let's say, sometimes a couple of weeks, days, or sometimes a year or so. And what's kind of interesting, we have an R2 and an L2, and they are micro switch, but the quality wise, yeah, the problem is that we need to press it exactly here, otherwise you're not going to be having any, let's say, input. You can just see that it's kind of weird. It isn't white. You can actually use it with the R2, but the L2 is absolutely a nightmare. Okay, so this is a kind of a fun feature. So we have these stands that implement it, so you can just put it on your desk. Okay, that's cool, but maybe kind of pointless. So let's clean this freaking screen, by the way. That's annoying me. So inside the box, we're also getting a USB cable, USB-C, and we're having the dongle from USB-C to USB. But let's check out what we're getting when it comes to the overall software. So pressing start of select, there is nothing we're getting over here when it comes to extra menu or settings. So we're having the all list, we have some MAME, PlayStation. So we do have a lot of new systems compared with the SF2000. So where the SF2000 wasn't dedicated, let's say, very basic emulator device, this thing comes with a little bit more features when it comes to emulators. So that's kind of interesting. We're having the download folder over here where we can implement new games. And with favorites. That's one of the things I love about these things. However, there's a kind of interesting options when getting into a list and you're pressing the Y over here, we have the option to search. So let's do it at first. Like always, let's search for Sonic. And let's see what we're having with this. So we do have all kinds of lists. It doesn't really state so far I can see what kind of platform it is. So we can also make it a favorite. So let's say I want to save the Sonic Wing as favorite, pressing the X. So what is cool about this? So let's go all the way back. I say go all the way back. And, okay. Let's go back here. Having history. So the history is kind of cool. We can see what kind of games have been played. And then the favorite list. And this is the single game that I've saved out. So that's kind of cool. So in here we're having all kinds of different solutions. Kind of basic, but I think for most people this is just enough. Okay, so let's get into some gameplay and let's see how the systems will run. So we're starting off with some MAME and let's see how the overall emulation performance is and what can we getting with an extra, let's say, menu. We do have some widescreen shenanigans, however, so select, you need to press when getting into the MAME and Neo Geo. Pressing both of them will get you the special menu, and here having quick load, quick save, so the save function is kind of deluxe. Okay, so let's start off with the game. Alright, let's select and start, let's load. I love it when they make these tiny screenshots, and that works like a charm. So quick load, quick save, I love it that we have like different menu, or at least a special picture with the menus where we can easily switch. So the D-pad itself is not going to be a pleasant experience. Joystick seems to be working fine. Seems to be working fine. You see, trying to shoot different direction with a D-pad, it's just freaking impossible. The display, however, is absolutely beautiful. I think even the camera picks it up. So when it comes to that, it's great, but also the audio. This tiny speaker at the back sounds amazing. But let's get in some other games. So let's move on to some MAME, or at least like arcade. So this is not going to be a pleasant experience because we have a really horrible D-pad, or a shitty D-pad I love to call it. Which we'll try to play. Let's see if we can get everything into an uncertain... No, it was an uncertain move out, but this is impossible with these D-pads. So the analog stick is fine. When I get the game, I don't notice too many problems. Audio-wise, it's great. I did notice some minor hiccups in the beginning when it comes to the character selection screen, but besides that, there's nothing much when it comes to that. So overall emulation performance, well. So another system I love to try out is some PlayStation 1. This is new, this was not available on the previous model. The audio, or at least the music, has not been implemented. So the D-pad is fine for just playing some racing games, that is no problem whatsoever. Analog stick and the D-pad have been mapped. But I find it not comfortable at all, simply with the button placement, but also the size. Why does that freaking annoying guy keep like driving in front of me? Go away. But so far, the emulation of PlayStation 1 seems to be running fine. So that's great. We can also make quick loads, quick save if you want to. Let's see how long that takes. Okay, that works quite fast. No problem there whatsoever. But there's a little bit of a downside, there is no music. The soul of the game is away, is gone. More widescreen shenanigans, yep. That is what we're getting with this freaking device. I find it a little bit of a downside that we don't have the option to change out the aspect ratio. And the reason why, because we have seen cheap devices that actually have no problem with that. Game sticks that can just switch easily through, let's say, different ratios, regions, you name it. But we cannot do this with this, and that's one of those many things I've been complaining for many years now. I think we should put it on the t-shirt. There is always something they mess up. And that is a fact. Hey. Ah! There goes my egg. This, by the way, it's the cheating version. We cannot die. Next up, some Super NES. It seems to be there is no problem with the emulation itself. No weird audio things going on. So the audio is already maxed up. I love it when you're going to be pushing the volume button, you can just actually see how much power your battery still has. So far so good. So that's great to see that we can actually have some good performance here. But the D-pad is not pleasant to play with these kind of games. The emulate performance of Super NES is great, absolutely. But one of the things I really hate about these devices, when they're putting a list on here and everything is going to be having a problem with alphabetic order, and I'm guessing this has to do with, let's say, the numbers up front of it. However, it's just one huge mess and I hate it. We do have a search option, that's cool, but still a mess, absolutely. But let's get into some emulation of the Sega Genesis, and that seems to be working all fine so far. Yep, sound effects right here. And you know how the game plays. Push him in the face and kick him in the balls. That's how we go to play. Beefcake turns into Wolfie. Okay. The only weird thing is that we have this... No! This jump button. Go! Ah, yeah. And it just gets punched in the face. However, emulation performance is great. We can also make quick load, quick save here, but no aspect ratio. That would be a great upgrade for the next time. Man, the audio goes like so much louder with the Game Boy emulator. At first I was thinking it was completely sounding wrong, but so far no problem. Then the biggest problem is the aspect ratio, of course. This looks absolutely hideous. But when it comes to, let's say, the Game Boy, it's possible to play. So let's move on into some rally on the Game Boy Advance. I think a Game Boy Advance will utilize the screen a little bit better than a normal Game Boy, but let's find out if we can actually play the game and how the emulation performance is. So far so good. No weird audio glitches whatsoever. Also the audio sounds great. Oh, there's my brake. Crap, I didn't know. Don't you love that these games all look and sound sometimes the same? Every single time I'm looking at this, the only thing I see is some Super Mario Kart. But maybe that's me. But it's kind of fun. Something different with a car, driving fast. It's kind of a cool game, by the way. Ooh. I love rally games. Seriously, I love them. Ugh. But the overall emulation performance is nice. Next up some PC Engine, but I did notice some minor hiccups again in the beginning. You can hear the audio, that it struggles. So the emulation is not perfect on PC Engine part. Where it's a minor dip, it is a dip. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a shame that PC Engine doesn't run 100%. The system you don't see very often on these cheap devices is some Atari. Oh man, that sound. Let's lower it. But out of the box it seems to be working just fine when it comes to the Atari part. I can even use the analog stick. That's so much better. Oh, this is even before my time, this. So let's move on to the Master System. And the overall performance seems to be working great as it is. But when it comes to these cheaper devices, it's absolutely great they added so many new platforms. However, I wish it went like a little bit of an option of tweaking. But also this emulation performance seems to be running just fine. The biggest problem I noticed is the audio levels between the emulators. The Master System sounds okay, where Atari was absolutely sounding way too loud. But there's absolutely nothing to complain here when it comes to the emulation performance of the Master System itself. Neo Geo Pocket is another system that is kind of cool. However, widescreen shenanigans and the A button is mapped to the B. That's something I noticed. Yep, another problem is we cannot remap anything. As you see, as you're getting it. But so far the emulation seems to be working just fine with this too. Oh man, such a fun game. And if you're looking at it graphical wise, this thing was kind of cool for back in the time. So first of all, we didn't check out any MAME games. We did particularly like the Neo Geo part in the beginning. So let's see how this will run. Okay. Do feels a little bit choppy, but maybe that's just me. Oh no, it runs choppy. You can just hear it on the audio part. And this is mainly to do that they are just setting up the wrong emulator. So with those emulator devices or handhelds, we can switch emulators. Sometimes it's an easy fix by switching a different emulator within a couple of games and we're ready to go. But yep, what you see is what you're getting, and with the main part they completely messed it up. And take note that there's going to be just one single game, like the 64 Street game, that sometimes struggle with certain emulators. It is playable, but with some dips. I do want to check out what happens if you're going to be plugging in a USB cable, or at least a USB cable through the dongle into the USB-C port. But there was actually nothing really happening over here. So that is kind of unfortunate at this point. I'm using an X-input controller with a simple reason, because this is one of the best or better ones when it comes to having support with different devices. But let's go into the game itself. I already tested out. I just wanted to showcase what happens. Sometimes you can use it actually as player 2, but that doesn't do anything. Here you can just see that there's nothing going on. Holding the button, nothing at all. But it's time, my friends, for the bubble wrap. Not the bubble wrap. No. We're going to be opening up, if I can find my freaking screwdrivers. Nope, it's the wrong one. Man, I can tell you, my desk over here underneath is a mess. Okay, so I'm very glad I have this AliExpress kit, so we have all kinds of screwdrivers. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is removing all of the tiny parts over here around, and going to be naughty and breaking the seal, of course. And we're going to be using some pry tools if needed to opening it up, to do a peek in the inside to see how they constructed everything. Can we replace the battery if this thing has some issues in the future? Because that is another problem I've noticed with these very cheap devices. And I mean in particular when it comes to, let's say, the X series that I reviewed many times before. I can still remember that these things had like soldering in, so you need to have soldering skills. And naughty wicked, yep, opening the seal. Oh. However, so yeah, the warranty of these things are absolutely laughable most of the time, because only having the time to refund it in a certain time frame, and after that you're having not a lot of, let's say, luck. Okay, we need to open up the stands over there. I'm going to be removing these two. The reason I'm using bubble wrap, because I don't want to damage the front part of the screen. And I think I have all of the screws now. Okay, so the first thing, oh, I can just lift it up. Okay. Let's see, we do have a little bit of a resistance, so one of the shoulder buttons already fall out. We can just lift it up. Always be very careful. Yeah, so it's the same shenanigans that we have seen before with the X series. So we're having the micro switch button under here. So when it comes to this, it's absolutely laughable. Yeah, they soldered the freaking battery straight onto the main board, so that is just annoying. Where with the SF2000 we can just click it out. That is so much more convenient. For example, if you have any problems, you want to do a full reset, we can just remove the battery, and that's not the case over here. So if this thing has any whatsoever problems, the same goes with the, let's say, the joysticks. There's no, let's say, removing that fairly easy. Everything has been soldered to the PCB itself. We're having one speaker, it's unfortunate. I wish I went for two. The audio quality is not bad at all, but I'm more like a fan of a two-speaker stereo situation. But that's it. That's the only thing we're getting inside of it. And replacing parts, yep, is not possible. It's going to be a nightmare. The SF3000 is a significant improvement of the previous model with more emulators and better overall specs. I mean, particularly when it comes to performance and also when it comes to, let's say, all kinds of new features. No aspect ratio, we have no configuration method, we have an external USB but doesn't do anything, no HDMI out so far I know, and when you're looking out of the box, it's a kind of fun experience. It's just something you can pick up and play, where the experience is not going to be great, simply reason because the buttons configurations are just awful. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great just to see you in the next video.